As your transformation into a high-value person deepens, you begin to notice not just how differently you show up in the world, but how the world responds to you in return. It becomes clear that people are more drawn to your presence, not because you're trying to be charismatic or likable, but because your energy carries an authenticity that is increasingly rare. You no longer seek to impress or dominate, and that quiet confidence makes people trust you. They can sense your consistency, your emotional stability, and your depth of character. You become someone people feel safe around, someone whose words and actions align, someone who doesn't need to constantly prove their worth because it naturally emanates through how you live. Over time, your ability to handle complex social dynamics with grace and discernment grows. You no longer get triggered easily or take things personally. When someone projects their pain or insecurity onto you, you can see through it without reacting in kind. Instead of escalating situations, you diffuse them by maintaining composure and clarity. Your presence alone becomes grounding to others. This doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect, it means you've mastered the art of protecting your peace while maintaining your power. You can walk away from chaos without needing to fight or prove anything. This is not passivity, it's control over your own energy. High-value people are often misunderstood because they don't conform to the typical noise of self-promotion, social performance, or reactive behavior. You may find yourself becoming less visible to those who only notice what's loud and flashy, but more magnetic to those who are looking for substance, truth, and leadership. Your circle may shrink, but it deepens. You begin to value quality over quantity in relationships. You no longer chase friendships based on history, proximity, or convenience. You seek alignment. You surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow, who honor your values, and who celebrate your wins without jealousy. And in turn, you become that person for others you support without controlling, uplift without competing, and care without clinging. Your emotional generosity expands, but it is rooted in discernment rather than obligation. As your relationships shift, so does your sense of time. You no longer feel the urgency to rush through life or constantly be busy to feel valuable. You start measuring your days not by how much you did, but how aligned you were while doing it. You prioritize presence, depth, and purpose. Time becomes sacred, and you become more intentional about how you spend it. You may wake up earlier, take more pauses during the day to check in with yourself, or end your nights with reflection rather than distraction. These small shifts compound over time and create a powerful sense of self-direction. You stop living on autopilot and begin to live with a kind of quiet intentionality that brings both peace and productivity. As you continue walking this path, you realize that becoming a high-value person isn't about becoming better than others, it's about becoming more fully yourself. It's about peeling back the layers of conditioning, expectation, and fear that kept you small. You begin to align more and more with your authentic self, not the self shaped by trauma, people-pleasing, or external pressure, but the self that emerges when you are deeply connected to your values, desires, and purpose. You stop outsourcing your identity and start owning your uniqueness. You don't feel the need to fit in because you've found where you belong, in your own truth. With this clarity comes courage. You start making bolder decisions, not reckless ones, but decisions rooted in conviction. You stop playing small or waiting for permission. If a job no longer aligns with your values, you begin looking for better. If a relationship is draining or unhealthy, you address it or walk away. You begin choosing long-term alignment over short-term comfort. You trust yourself more. You know that even if you don't have everything figured out, you have the resilience to navigate uncertainty. This self-trust becomes your compass, and it leads you to experiences that are far more fulfilling than the ones you once settled for. One of the most profound shifts is your relationship with fear. It doesn't disappear, but it loses its control over you. You learn to differentiate between real danger and imagined threat. You stop letting fear of judgment, failure, or rejection hold you back. You face your fears with curiosity, asking what they're trying to teach you. This doesn't mean you become fearless, it means fear no longer stops you from acting. You begin to see fear as a signpost, not a stop sign. You use it as data, not destiny. As a result, you start taking aligned risks, trying new things, and stepping outside your comfort zone. Growth becomes more exciting than scary. You also stop clinging to the need for certainty. You realize that control is often an illusion and that life's greatest gifts are sometimes found in surrender. You begin to allow life to unfold without micromanaging every outcome. You become more adaptable not because you don't care, but because you've learned to trust the process. You release the grip of perfectionism and embrace progress instead. You become a better decision maker because you stop second guessing yourself endlessly. You realize that no decision is final and that you can always course correct. This freedom brings ease and flow into your life. Your creativity expands as you stop fearing mistakes. You try, experiment, learn, and refine without shame. Another marker of your growth is that you become more deeply connected to your intuition. You listen to your inner voice more often than external noise. You trust your gut feelings and learn to distinguish between intuition and anxiety. You stop needing to consult a dozen people before making a choice. You know yourself well enough to make decisions that honor your inner knowing. This connection to intuition makes your life more aligned and your path more authentic. You begin to move through life with a sense of synchronicity as if opportunities, people, and experiences are aligning effortlessly. It's not magic, it's alignment. You've cleared so much internal clutter that your energy becomes a magnet for the things that match your frequency. As you evolve, your impact on others becomes more profound. You don't have to preach, teach, or try to influence. You simply live your truth, and that truth inspires others to do the same. You become a living example of what's possible when someone chooses healing over hiding, authenticity over approval, growth over comfort. You give people permission to be themselves by being fully yourself. Your presence alone becomes a catalyst for others. People begin to rise simply because you refuse to shrink. You don't try to fix anyone, but your light reminds them of their own. You also become more connected to a sense of purpose that transcends personal gain. You start to ask deeper questions about your contribution to the world. What legacy do you want to leave? What do you want people to feel after interacting with you? What impact do you want to make, not just in your career, but in your community, your family, your everyday interactions? These questions guide your choices and refine your mission. You realize that success is not just about what you achieve, but about who you become in the process. Fulfillment becomes more important than accolades. You stop chasing milestones that don't resonate and start building a life that feels meaningful. As your purpose becomes clearer, you begin aligning your work, relationships, and lifestyle with it. You don't just want a job, you want a vocation. You don't just want a partner, you want a soul connection. You don't just want free time, you want intentional time. This alignment brings a level of satisfaction that success alone can't provide. Even your goals begin to shift. You no longer set goals to prove something, you set them to express something. Your ambition transforms from ego-driven striving to soul-driven creating. You move from competition to contribution. You start to care less about being the best and more about being useful, impactful, and whole. This mindset frees you from comparison and scarcity. You celebrate others' wins because you're no longer operating from lack. You trust that there is enough success, love, and opportunity for everyone including you. Eventually, you realize that becoming a high-value person was never about becoming someone else. It was about unbecoming all that you are not. It was about shedding the masks, the fears, the noise, and the patterns that kept you disconnected from your true essence. It was about remembering who you are beneath the expectations, the wounds, the limitations. It was about returning to your power, not a power that dominates, but one that liberates, a power that creates, heals, and uplifts. And as you step fully into this version of yourself, you recognize that the journey never really ends. There's always more to discover, more to learn, more to embody. But now, the journey feels less like a struggle and more like a sacred unfolding. You trust the timing of your life. You honor the seasons. You know that you are exactly where you're meant to be, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. And in that realness, you find everything you were ever looking for.